Welcome to episode 61 of our board gaming podcast, A Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly. I'm your host, Eddie, and joining me this week, a man who will, at the end of this episode, say, when it comes to rolling terribly, it's all on the wrist. And I guess we don't need you until next week now. So thanks for joining us, Gaz. Say bye, Gaz.
Okay, all right. Yeah, they're getting weirder. So I feel like there might have been a filter, and you filtered by like most odd to least odd.
I like that one.
So
I
you
like
like
that
that
one.
one, did you?
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't even think I get that one.
What do you mean?
Why will you not need me till next week?
I don't know. I'm not breaking it down. You can blame Dwarf for that one. That was a Dwarf one.
Okay, all right. I'll have to. Maybe I'll just look up the FAQ and see if it's in there. So no, yes, good. Happy, yeah.
No, happy Easter.
Oh, I was just gonna say happy.
Happy Easter, everyone. We are, and I had to look this up, okay, because this is my brain doesn't work the same as everyone else's in a lot of different areas, but I wasn't sure whether the world celebrated Easter around the same time as we did.
Oh, that's fair because it changes every year anyway, so it's dumb, right?
Okay,
Like,
but
it's
is it
not
the
fixed,
same
like,
for everyone as it is for us, Easter Sunday or something?
yeah, I think yeah. As far as I know, the one other country that I have regular contact with is the US because I got one of the guys in my team works in the US, and he said it was so.
Oh,
But that,
okay.
from my understanding, they don't get like a 4-day weekend. They don't get any holidays.
Oh, that's
Like
rough.
it's all the same things except that they don't get days off.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I'm gonna get angry people, and him specifically in his state doesn't. I know every state is basically like a different country over there.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, some people are probably like, "Oh, we get all of 2024 off because it's Easter," right? Like,
You know how, just a little off topic, you know how, well, we haven't established the topic yet, but we understand roughly how we've got like what, 7, 8 states, 2 territories, 7 states or something like that in Australia. We have a rough idea of kind of every state, like fairly well. Do Americans have like no clue about certain states just because there's 50 of them? Or do they have to learn all 50?
I reckon that it's boiled down to the most stereotypical thing about that state, and that's it. Like, they will know about a certain place and be like, "Oh, yeah, that's because that reason," you know? Like we have I'm not gonna say a bunch of bad shit about all the different states and jokes we have about the ones in Australia, but that'd be it, right? Like, there's no way you can really well, like, know 52 states. I mean, maybe you can.
Yeah, is it 50 or 52?
Isn't it 52, isn't it?
I think it's 50.
Is it? Oh, I just invented 2 more states. All
I
right,
think there's
sorry.
50 stars on the flag or something like that.
Oh, okay, yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
It should
okay.
be 52. It sounds like a better number. 50 sounds made up. Be like, we're gonna have 50 states. You're like, oh, that sounds like you'll never get there. But if you're like, we've got 52 states, like, oh, it sounds like it's really specific.
We've just lost half our listeners, you know that.
What? How have we lost? Oh, yeah, it's true, because they're gonna be like, how dare you talk about the 2 extra states that don't exist?
That's right. But yes, it is Easter. Everyone celebrates it in, I don't know, various ways. And lots of chocolate, right?
Yeah, heaps of chocolate.
So that's awesome. Something that did happen recently was I got my copy of Buttons and Bugs. It arrived last week. I did an unboxing. I haven't edited it or thrown it up yet. But it's really cool. The minis are literally this big.
Minis?
Yeah. They're like mini minis. They're
So
really small.
For those listening on podcast, Daddy's saying really small with his fingers and making a really small gesture.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yep.
Yes.
Do you want to give us a size, like a banana for scale?
No.
Okay.
But like, there's my phone. Oh, there's my dog.
Again, you can't.
Okay, sorry.
Audio cannot see that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But no, it's very, very cool how they've filled out. I haven't played it yet, but they've packed so much, I guess, potential content. They've downsized that Gloomhaven feeling into a tiny box, just even with the components and the way that the scenarios are laid out on the back of cards and the tiny little hexes. And I'm very excited to tap into that. So I know that a lot of people have received their copies of that, and I think they'll hit up retail later on in April, I think.
Yeah.
Then,
I ordered mine late, so I'm looking forward to playing that. I haven't looked it up or anything. I have no idea what it's about. I just know that it's a small little one-player Gloomhaven game, and I was like real pumped to jump into that. Kind of with no expectations.
Are you gonna read the rule book, or are we just gonna ask
Yeah,
Dwarf when you're
the
confused about something?
the rule book that comes inside, right? Like there's a that because if you didn't put a rule book inside that would just be outrageous. Yeah,
Yeah, there's a little rule book in there.
yeah. Is there?
Yeah.
Oh, wasn't that the whole thing that was controversy about there was no rule book?
Oh, there was controversy around no rule book.
Oh, maybe I'm making that up. There's enough controversy in the Frosthaven, Gloomhaven world that I
No,
don't need
there's
to up.
definitely a little rule book in there. On the very
Okay.
beginning, on the front page of it though, it does say that you can download there's an app out there called Dized or Dized, wait, which is the same thing, but it's it's an app that basically is a board game tutorial with animations and all that, and it's got a library of games on there. It's apparently a bit buggy, and I think
Like
the
buttons and
company
stuff.
announced this forever ago, and they announced it with a Blood Rage tutorial, which was really cool. And I just don't think it's been developing very quickly. I'm not too sure, but
Okay.
it worked for this, and I had a quick look at it, and it seems to really work really well, and it looks really cool as well. Just guides you into your first few rounds of whatever game you want.
That's cool.
So that was on the front page of the rule book, but the rule book actually has pages in it, so I assume
Oh, okay.
there's lots of rules in there.
Yeah, cool. Well, I will read the rule book, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, good. Definitely. So we aren't playing this coming week. We have a week off. Yeah, it was just I think Mark has decided. I don't know what he's doing. He hasn't said it. He just says he can't play, which is fine. I assume it's race related. So
Well, he's it's because of his race.
no, he races cars sideways.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
It's like it's
So
Caucasian related?
no.
Okay.
So the three of us have decided we won't play. We'll give everyone a week off. It's been pretty intense the last couple of weeks with all the wrapping up the storylines and all of that. So it'd be cool to have a week off, and we'll get a
Yeah,
chance
I'm
to
going to
actually have
go
an
play
amDirt.
in a I'm gonna go play in a Star Wars competition.
You are.
Yeah. So be prepared for me telling you that I did really poorly.
Can you at least
Looking into
record
the
it?
future when we record next week, I'll make mention when you ask me how I went. And this is my reflection back, but forward, I did poorly.
Can you record it?
The entire tournament?
Yeah,
No.
it's not
Yep,
good enough.
that's it. Yeah, that's it. I don't know. I assume they're not streaming it. Look, if they are streaming any of it and I happen to make it onto a stream table, then sure, I'll throw the link into the channel of the show notes or something like that. But
There may be people out there that want to watch you play Star Wars Unlimited. So maybe I need to rock up with all my cameras and stuff and just annoy everyone while I'm saying, excuse me, sorry, watch out for that. Watch out for this tripod.
well, when I was playing Star Wars Destiny, there was like stream tables, even at kind of some of the smaller tournaments. Like General Games actually did a really good job of kind of promoting that and having lots of stuff going on. So it's not happened before, but I just don't think this will have it.
Yeah, okay.
But it should, because it's actually a really cool game. Like, and I think it's getting so much hype at the moment. So
Yeah. Well, you can suck me into that one. So, sorry, that sounded weird. So, on today's episode,
also, just a disclaimer: it's really late, and we're recording later than we normally do. We normally record on a Friday, and not to break down the fourth wall, but we're recording on a Sunday, and it's late. We're just kind of both a bit out of it. So we're like, what scenario did we do again? What's Frosthaven? We're not playing tomorrow. Like, you know, when you take a couple of days off work extra and then you kind of go back to work and go, where do I even work again? I've had
how do
3
I do
days
this
off.
again?
What's my car? Where does that go? Right. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel at the moment. Like, what's a Frosthaven? So yeah, this will be fun.
We're gonna try and remember, and everyone can remember with us.
Yep.
On today's episode, we're gonna be covering scenario 60, Uniting the Crown. We're gonna have a little chat about all three of the main quest lines. And we've got a short topic, which was a user submitted one. So we'll jump straight into scenario 60. On our way, we had a road event. What are the chances you even have a clue what this is? All right, I will tell you. This is boat event 15.
Oh yeah, this was terrible. I hate this. This was the worst experience ever.
Yeah. So I think was it a Bale? Oh, Captain Dog Hogger, by the way, our
Yes.
good mate
Oh, mate,
who
yeah.
almost single-handedly retired my drifter. He saw a Bailey riding piranha pigs, I think towards the ship or something out in the ocean. They're coming right for us. And it was like, oh no, they did a flying V, like in the Mighty Ducks. That's it actually says in a V formation. And they were coming to us, and out of nowhere we heard, I don't know, a crashing noise of some kind as
Crashing Tide.
the crashing tide, the coral, Gaz's old mate, rocked up and all of a sudden pulled all their aggro. So crashing tide, and it just had a cinematic look to it and feel to it. I don't know what it is. It was just so cool. And we had to make a decision whether or not we leg it and leave, or if we come back, what was it? Flee the scene or tell them to turn the ship around. There were too many at Bailey for the coral to handle, and we need to help. Now, what kind of a question is that? You can't.
Yeah.
They should have had two
Well,
similar ones of do you go around the back to help him or do you go around? I don't know. It's something like that.
I think in the description as well, I feel like it said something like it points those weird mouth pits at you in a go, I've got this kind of, you know,
Yeah.
mention. Like I feel like that was part of the description, but I can't be sure. So maybe that's why it's like, well, do you think that he's got it, or do you want to go help him?
Look, all four characters that were on the ship had never met him before, and he had never met us before
That's true.
either. So I don't know why he's upset or,
Yeah.
or, or, or mouthing to us. Yeah, so that whole thing was weird. But yeah, the idea behind fleeing and helping him, I think it was very obvious we were going to go help him to see what we actually got. And we came back and we did help him, and he was slightly pissed.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. He wasn't happy that we were trying to help him. Yeah.
that's right. We all started the next scenario with wound. Um,
For our fighting efforts. Yep.
Yep, and that was it. That was
Yeah.
the glorious return of the crashing tide, and it goes hand in hand with all the other retirements. Let's have a little chat here, just quickly. How has the retirement for the character returns? How have they been?
Well, I mean, this is recency bias, but terrible. Like based on that one, like I'd completely forgotten how outraged I was until you mentioned that. Okay, and it's just I don't know. I don't want to whinge about it. I just want to say as a for an experience perspective, it sucked. Right? Like I don't want to go into about why or how or whatever, but that one was that just felt the crappiest out of all of them. Because I mean, we did look at the other side of the card, which we rarely do, to see what would happen if we chose the other way. And isn't it just nothing?
Yeah, no effect.
Yeah,
We
like no
we
effect.
we, we go away.
So, look, please let me know if I'm missing something. Like, if there is a key thing that I'm missing in that, like, getting no effect, or was there another thing that happened? Like, did we get a section event? Did we get another event? I can't remember if maybe two events went in there when he retired.
I can't remember either.
I can't remember. But
But
look,
normally, if two events of the similar type go into the deck, once you've pulled out one, that card will instruct you to pull out the other,
yeah, that makes sense.
to remove it. And yeah, it's just but it's consistent. So I'm starting to think it's really intentional. There was an intentional design behind you play these characters for a long time. Days, if you're insane, weeks, sometimes months, right? You play these characters for a long time, you build an attachment to them, you get used to their, their whole DNA of play and mechanics and everything. And then eventually you retire them, and it feels weird to say goodbye as you roll another character. And you have fond memories of certain characters. To have them come back in the story it actually is a phenomenally good feeling.
Mm.
Right? When that drifter first came back and I heard the Fortella guy read it out, it immediately had all of us at the table go, oh my God. It was like the same thing with Snowflake and all of that. It's getting to the stage where please don't come back. Like, just don't come back.
Doesn't matter now,
No,
right? Like that's it. Yeah,
no,
and
no,
that's
no, no. It does because they can wound us now, right?
oh,
They can do it,
that's
give us a
true.
negative thing.
And look, I'm okay with us choosing the wrong option there and it being, oh, you get wound. But it I just feel like when exactly it feels like a miss because there's been a couple of characters that have come back where it's been, oh yeah, we got something cool out of it. But the whole thing with them returning, it feels cool because you go, oh, forgot about them, or you're waiting for a section event to come up, or this one was random because we had to wait for a boat. Like we weren't even sure if we're ever gonna actually see it, right? Because we,
Yeah. Well,
from
we
what
don't
we
know
could
how
see,
many
that
times, how many boat events we're going to ever draw from. There's a chance that if we don't use all of them, that we'll never see it, right?
Yeah, and there's still quite a few in there. So it was a case of like we might not see it. And then when it did come up, it's like, oh wow, okay, cool. What's gonna happen? It's like, oh nothing, and you get wounded. Okay. Like we would have been better off not retiring him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like this one specifically just seemed really shit. Some of the other ones have been like game morale, which that could be good, right? Like again, that's a different conversation about where our campaign is at. So that could be good in some circumstances. The random item I think seems to be the strongest. I think getting like the Geminate gave us a sticker, which we already had, so that felt bad because we already had it. But again, that could be really useful because I think it is useful. And so they're like most of them have been mediocre at best, right? Which is fine because it's kind of based on where you are in the campaign. And
Yeah.
and I'll cop that and go, oh, look, you guys were doing X or you'd made these decisions, which means that, or had this luck and gotten that event. So that wasn't as impactful as it could have been.
Mm,
But this one, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're either getting wounded or nothing.
mm.
And that just, I don't know. Again, I must be missing something. So please tell me that I'm wrong and that this event is actually really well designed.
There is one. Okay, the Blink Blade is an event one, so we haven't seen that one yet. That's similar to the Coral. It may not come back, right? Based on pure RNG. Okay.
I mean, based on our experience with the Blink Blade, he'll just come back in and go, oh, by the way, guys, I killed the last boss. Are you guys, are you good with that? Like, we're done.
Yeah, I got all this morale. I don't need it. You have it.
Yeah, like we win. Frosthaven saved.
The other one that we don't know if, because most of them we've seen some kind of finish, right? The other one's the Bone Shaper. The Bone Shaper unlocked a scenario that we haven't done. So that one could also be amazing or a shit show. We could go in there and it'd make us lose XP or something.
Yeah, that's it. If you complete the scenario, lose the level.
Yeah. So yes, it's an interesting
Getting
thing.
worse?
Pardon?
Like they're getting worse, right?
They're pretty much getting worse. Like the last two we've had has been Snowflake and Coral, and those two were like neck and neck, side by side. You know, best mates kind of thing. They ran together, and it's hard to point out. Oh well, I was about to say it's hard to sort of work out which one was a better reward.
What did the Snowflake give us?
Three morale.
Oh, that's right. That was the bountiful resources have morale. Yeah. Yeah, and look that again, that's a situational one. So that's fine. It's not great, but it's fine. Yeah, anyway.
So yeah, we did that, and then we headed to scenario 60, uniting the crown. So this is the end of the local quest line. All right, we searched for the 6 coral shards, so that we can unite it. Yeah.
I usually don't try to redesign stuff, but how cool would it have been if he'd rocked up and then you cop your wound or you don't cop your wound, but then in the next scenario, you get a buff because he's with you. You're going on a boat scenario. Imagine if you got like, not put the character on the map like Ormy type situation, but like you got some buff. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, hey, he's going to join you in the battle. So this happens. Like, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
It would have been a once off, and it could be very lackluster if he joined you on a scenario that didn't make a difference, right? Like, that's super swingy still. But imagine us going into this boss scenario, and we'll talk about the boss scenario in a bit, but we're going like, wow, we're going back to do the Crashing Tide, the final in the Lurker chain, and we've got this kind of our old crab mate who's joined us and has given us a boost.
It would have been nice.
That would have felt so cool.
Yeah, would have been better than just a wound. Just nothing and a wound.
Anyway, sorry.
So far, it's officially the worst one, by the way. I think out of all of them, if we were to rank them. Like, I'm looking forward to ranking them, but I'm pretty sure it's already kind of paved out already. Like, it's, what do they call it? An unforegone conclusion or something? Anyway.
Yes.
So, yes, we collected all the shards. I've got a couple of memories of the questline. I have not put together a trailer. I have not put together any of my crazy stuff this week. I've been way too busy. But I was just going to say, yeah, do you remember a lot of the questline coming in? We had scenario 7 where we first met the crabs and we were like, lol, easy. This is what's going on, right? Which turns out was a pretty tough scenario for other people, which is interesting to hear.
Yeah.
We did 13 and 32, spin off that. So that was Raven's Roost. One of them was Raven's Roost, which we do like a lot. And we had 13, which was the first time we met the Shrike Fiends on the bridges, and we had to separate. We were separate, and then we just had to kill everything. And we, I think, also met our snow imps for the first time in there as well,
Mm.
which was really cool. But they weren't completely tied to the lurker, but they're part of the flow chart, right? Then we had 14, which was
The worst scenario ever created. Yep.
second worst scenario ever created, but yes. Then we had 22, which
Which
was,
is fine, except we had the worst experience with it ever.
that's right.
Yeah.
We had 33, which was the one we had to get the cores and triangulate the three of them to dig out.
Oh, is that a lurker one?
Yes, because he needed
Oh, that.
the energy from the luminescent cores to
Oh,
power up
that's
the
right.
the
Yeah, the
bathysphere.
submarine. Yeah, yeah, the couch. Okay, cool. That was cool. I like that one.
Yeah, it was on my worst list. Um, then we had 42, Sunless Trench. So we finally got the submarine and we went all the way down to the darkest of dark
That was
and
gross.
had the oozes with no legs. And the coral actually had to pull out a clutch victory at the end in the last room, which was
Mm.
pretty amazing. So
Yeah.
so far there's a few dodgy scenarios there. Then we had 49, which was the couch scenario where we had to navigate that bathysphere, which turned out to be one of my favorites. Actually, I think it was
Yeah.
a really well designed
I think
scenario.
that's been one of those ones that's kind of gone along in, you know how things get momentum or become cult classics? You know, at the time it wasn't really appreciated that much, but then
Mm,
the more it gets reflected on, the more I think about it, I'm like, yeah, that was so much fun. Like I
yeah, it
love
was
that one. It was really good. Yeah.
helpful that it was very memorable.
Mm.
And then we had 53. After we came out of the bathysphere, we fought a crab boss, which was not the last boss. This was the one
Oh,
that
that
died
one.
died in
Uh,
3 rounds.
yeah, no, bad poor design. I think that actually stemmed our conversation on, come on, guys, let's make a proper boss scenario, right?
Yeah. And that's what led us to scenario 60, which is, well, actually, we had to run around and get all the shards from all the parts of the world, but we completed that last week. And now we're going to tackle on scenario 60. So, the scenario goal for the scenario is complete when the fracture of the deep is dead. At the end of that round, we read a thing. Scenario effect: all characters add 3 -1s to their AMD. I still haven't got that perk. It's too late. So, there we go. -1s for me. Do you get that? Does Prism have that as a perk?
No,
Ah,
I'm taking aim minus ones.
nah. Special rules. All non-lurkers gain 2 curses, which is everyone. All hexes are treated as water for lightning eels. 6 lurkers are on the map, and they're actually treated as lieutenants. And you have to add +1 to all of their attacks for the scenario. Each one gets appointed one of the 6 elements, and that's depicted in the scenario book. And while an element is on a lieutenant, that element can no longer be infused, or just can't be infused from the start. When any of them die, the character who killed it places a number token on their character board, which represents a piece of the coral shard. The element that was on the slayed lieutenant now becomes strong for the remainder of the scenario. For each shard a character has on their mat, they get to add +1 to one of their attacks targeting non-boss enemies. At the start of a turn, a character can give any number of these shards to an adjacent character. So the boss is also immune. It's immune during this whole time to all damage and conditions. It's got 2 specials. The first one is he just does a push at range 1, push 1, and that's it. And then, if ice is up and 2 other elements are up, it summons a Claw Crusher, a Lurker Claw Crusher, which is going to be elite for us with 4 people. And then if dark is up after that, and there are still 2 elements up, so you really messed up, he'll summon a Mind Snipper. And then boss special 2, he will move like 4 or something for our difficulty anyway. And if he consumes air, he'll do that with jump. He'll do an attack, which his attack at our level was a base 6. And if fire is up, he'll add +4, which is kind of rough. And then if light is up with 2 more elements, he summons a wave thrower, which makes the trifecta of the lurkers. And then there was a section part that just basically said when one character has all 6 tokens on their mat, we have to read a thing. Uh, how was before I jump into the challenge card and the pets and all that? How did that kind of sound?
Yeah, I mean, at the start, I remember the roller coaster of going, okay, so all the elements are underneath the monsters, like those lieutenants, and while they're all under there, elements can't be generated, and there was like a groan across all three of you guys. So you, Mark, and Phil, who all we've talked about have this trifecta of mixing between two elements each. Well,
A
I have
giant
none.
ass smile on your face.
Yeah, and I was like, yes. And then when you read the next part, it's like, once they're dead, that element is permanently infused. And everyone's just like, oh, wow, that becomes really good. I'm like, oh, I don't really care about that. I can't benefit from it at all. So it was kind of like a, yeah, oh, yeah, I suppose you can also enjoy it. But so that was cool. And I think, yeah, overall, it was really weird because even as you're reading out the special abilities then, I still that completely went over my head, and it was hard to it took a few goes back to going like, "What combinations don't we want?"
Yeah.
It was kinda like special 1, he's gonna summon a bunch of dudes, summon 2, he's gonna do a bunch of damage,
Yeah.
right? And, special 2, sorry. So, it was kind of like working out which ones we don't and just going back to that, which
Yeah.
was because there was key ones we didn't want up, right? Like,
But
if
there were
just
key ones that we wanted for ourselves.
correct. Well, that's the other balance, right? So,
Yeah,
but they all have to come up eventually.
that's true.
But it's just going like if we put fire up, anytime you pull special 2, he's just gonna whack someone for 10.
Mm,
Right. So we
yeah.
can kind of negate 4 of that by just not doing fire.
Or we could just not get hit and let me
Well,
enjoy the
yeah, not get
fire.
hit. That's yeah, not getting hit on a boss that's immune to everything is super easy, right? But yeah,
um,
anyway, so that was like from a special rules, what do we got to do perspective. That was kind of how yeah, it
yeah.
felt.
Our challenge card for the evening was hypochondria. Whenever any character gains a negative condition, they also gain wound. Which was interesting because we had impair from claw crushers, we had wave throwers doing immobilize, and things like that. I'm not too sure what the mind snippers do because every time I see them, they're not very good.
No,
They're but we
they
rated them
like
highly. I don't
you just
understand.
keep telling like they're all potential. Apparently, I don't know.
Yeah,
The
okay.
reason we chose that one is because we have both me and Mark that are basically immune to wound. Because I've got a
Very
talent
good
that's
point.
immune to it, and Mark has permanent regen. So we
Very
were
good
like, yep,
point.
this one is a good time.
Our pets for the evening were Lunacy, the Hound, and Stu, the Black Imp. Monster combinations were Lurker Soldier, Lurker Mind Snipper, Lurker Claw Crusher, and Lightning Eels. First room setup, we had 3 very large tiles joined together at the midpoint of each of them, 3 lieutenants on either wing, boss in the center, some difficult terrain and obstacles peppered around. Initial thoughts, guys?
Yeah, it looks really cool. Like it looked fun. Immune boss meant we couldn't just burn it down. We needed
I'm
to.
I'm I'm seeing a trend of that, immune bosses, and I'm liking it a lot. Like
Yeah,
I
well, yeah, that's been 2 or 3 now, right?
I think so. I think so. Although if it wasn't immune at the start this time, I still think it would have been kind of interesting. Just because it
Wait a
wouldn't have
minute,
been.
we just
It,
killed it. It only had like 30 life.
oh, that's true. If it had a lot more health,
Yeah, I feel yeah, no, it seemed really cool. It looked fun. It looked challenging as well because while a couple of those mobs like the we always kind of give shit to the claw crushers, they still do pack a punch and they ignore shields a lot of the time. They give impair, which we keep giving shit to, but is actually like really annoying.
one of the things I totally discounted of them is they can hit 2 targets. And I
Yeah.
totally forgot about that. We kept lining up for that quite nicely, so that was pretty awesome. Yeah, and then just trying to work out what our element order is going to be. So as far as I can remember, Mark wants ice and earth. So we're looking at those mobs, and they're like on opposite sides. I want fire and earth. Phil wants either of them or none of them. I'm not too sure. And
That's
Gaz wasn't
ice and
invited
fire.
to. Yeah, and Gaz wasn't invited to the
I
discussion.
don't care.
So I think
I was
we.
like, just don't get any of them. It's fine, guys. Don't worry about it.
But we decided to head over to the eastern side of the map, which was really, really cool. And we start, boss immediately starts charging down to Gaz, which is interesting. And then we had an amazing, I don't know, coordination. I don't remember anything that Gaz did, but I do have a memory of Phil and Mark getting into certain positions on the eastern side with me, and I got a huge igneous path, and I burned the ESS on it to get the fifth spot to increase the range, netting all 3 crabs and netting 3 XP from it with some pure damage and creating a bit of a wall that I could start playing around. And then Mark was doing pushing stuff through them all. It was great. Actually, this side, we immediately, I think, when it comes to lurkers and you've got we had one of each type minus the soldier. I think you got to nail the wave thrower first. I don't know if I'm right on this, but I think you have to nail the wave thrower first.
Yeah, well, with our wave thrower RNG luck, you definitely do because they're going to summon 100% of the time.
That and they've got immobilize, which seems to ruin everyone's lives
Yeah,
considering we're such a melee heavy lineup.
yeah, yeah. I think 100% it was the right thing to do when we jumped on that. And then we did luck out in that the Mind Snipper drew like don't move but retaliate like 3 turns in a row.
Yes.
Like it just sat there not doing anything. And then by the time we were like, okay, we're going to kill you. And I think it might have drawn it again. We're like, no, this is fine. You're dead.
Mm.
Like it really wasn't that much of an issue. So that could have made our lives a lot worse.
No, you're 100% right. It was really bizarre. One of the main cards that I have not seen in forever is the one where it like targets you and makes you hit your mate.
Mm.
And that's
Well,
what
that
makes
if it
them
had
kind of
done that at the
scary.
start, yeah, that's what I mean. If it had done that even once, it would have been a lot more than nothing, right? But yeah, it just kind of sat there, just looking tough and looking scary. So that made that a lot easier.
Um, so yeah, we were running around the side. We all coordinated everything really really well. Gaz eventually did something. I think he summoned a pet. You had a pet army up at one stage. That was an interesting thought about going into this scenario. Was knowing that the boss is going to be roaming around and just not jumping. Although we blew up the wave thrower, which unlocked air, so he was going to be jumping around immediately. How are you going to keep your pets alive with this giant thing walking around? And I think you did a really really good job because I just thought they were just I mean, on their turn, they're gonna head towards whatever's the closest thing, right?
Yeah, it's I that's what I thought at the start when I was picking my cards, and I was like, "What am I going to do?" It's like I can't just go heavy summon because I mean, I think I mentioned this to you at the time. Look, the cards that I picked and how I changed my opening hand, I was like, I could go probably pick 5 or 6 different cards and play this completely differently.
Mm,
The original thought I had was I'm going to go super, like very ranged. I'll just summon the range turret, pick all the range cards. I'll just sit here and I'll just shoot shit because we were kind of central. We started central, so it wouldn't have been too hard to kind of set up shop there and do some shit. But I just went, no, we'll just jump in the thick of it. And yeah, I managed to keep stuff alive for the most part.
we got to see a lot more of your transforming. Um,
Like I completely understand all the comments about melting brains, and especially considering I just unlocked the level 5 card. It adds like another layer to the full D chess kind of brain melty stuff.
what makes it probably slightly worse, like from a brain melting point of view, is when you've finally locked in what you're gonna do, and you roll the attack modifier card, which also has a
Uh,
transform on it, and you're like, "Ooh, what is that gonna mean? Let me just
yeah,
reset."
yeah, pretty much. That's it, and that's 100% right. It's there is an element of RNG which can go rethink your turn. Not rethink your turn, but hey, there's a thing that just happened. Could this be better? And I think
Yeah.
since it was, it was like attack and then swap and then blah blah blah. So yeah, it's cool. I'm really enjoying it. I'm feeling, and I know this wasn't about the prison, but I guess it kind of leads into how I went about it and how I kept everything live. I'm feeling like all my choices count and I'm not stuck in a kind of puzzle compared to say we talked about the Geminate, which you had a lot of options, but you were always kind of very narrow on what those were. Uh,
Mm,
so again, I thought it was really cool at the start of the scenario, me going like I could really play this many different ways. But yeah, I had to keep in mind that there was this giant boss that was likely to jump around cleaving shit.
yeah.
And I just didn't want to like run out of summons really early and be like, oh, okay.
Well, that would make you borderline useless.
Yeah, the way I've built it, no, because I've got a couple of still good attack cards. It would just mean my mobility would suck.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
So yeah, I continue to maze. Now I'm just gonna do a couple of highlights that I can remember, at least off the top of my head. I concentrate a lot more on mazing on this scenario only because after that initial igneous path, which I was only doing to do some pure damage and get the XP, because I really want XP, uh, I realized that there was potential for mazing, which is kind of what traps do. And the idea of mazing is that you control the battlefield in such a point that you utilize enemy AI to move in a certain direction, and you can kite ultimately packs of mobs. And it actually through cooling on one of the original hazards that I did at the start, we had a real maze thing going on. So a lot of the things had to really go around a long way to get to us, which was really really cool. And then there was a bit where they all started to make their way around and gather behind us. We had to then jump back through the middle and head to the other side, and not leave any man behind, except Phil decided to long rest back there. And that was, I can't remember how it went. I can barely remember a lot of the scenario, let alone what Phil was doing on in it. But I don't know if he did any retaliate this time.
No. It was. I think he did a little bit, but
yeah, we killed more lieutenants. We get more elements. As we're getting these elements, the boss is starting to do more summoning. And starting off with the claw crushers, we started to get all 4 at one stage.
all the elements were like, yeah. Once we got the elements up, or once we got like 4 or 5 elements up, you're right. Like he started summoning a lot, and I know there was a couple of instances where like me and Phil kept going, we don't even need to kill this. Like, and that wasn't that anybody was like targeting the wrong thing, but it was like, oh, I'm gonna hit 2 targets, and you'd be like, oh, I pull my -1 on the one on the lieutenant, and I pull the crit on the other one. You're like, oh, okay, well, there's another 6 damage into the thing we don't need to kill. So the board was starting to fill up a bit,
A little bit, yeah.
and it was starting to fill up a bit with things that we didn't care about. That was
No.
the part that was getting a bit scary. So it did become a little bit of a, okay, this could get out of control. And also because he's summoning wave throwers, which also summon like the eels,
Yeah.
and because everything's water and lights permanently up, there
That's
is a
the other
chance,
thing.
yeah, that they can in a combination go summon eels, and then the next turn pull all eels get to jump and or move and stun you, and
Yeah.
that could have been gross. So yeah, there was a little bit of like, is this getting out of control? But I think we managed to consolidate a bit, and we all rested around the same time. I think that gave everyone basically most of their cards back. So it was like then one more push through to kill the last lieutenant, and kind of then have a chance of seeing what happens once we get all 6 shards. And
And
you
I
know,
think part of the design was of the scenario was once you get all those elements up and they're permanently up, your power spike kind of goes up as well. At least for people who use the elements. Because I noticed that I was using magma orbs, which requires fire and earth, every single chance I got, which was targeting 3 things, and I was kept putting quenched rage up as well to then do a whole bunch of multi-targeted attacks. Which the most important thing, it was generating me a crap load of XP.
mm,
So having all of those elements up, which is allowing us to really spam a lot of abilities, which was obviously good, but there was still a timer in there for making sure that we could down this boss before we got overwhelmed.
yeah, I'd love to see the different kind of uh combinations or how different characters fare in this, because like I didn't care about the elements because I have no card to use elements, which is fine. Thinking back to Banner Spear, I didn't really play a lot that needed elements either, so that wouldn't have made a difference.
Oh my
But I go
god,
back,
the Geminate on this scenario would have been nice.
yeah, the Geminate would have liked it, because like everything that you were doing, you would have got the elements. The Crab would have loved this, because there's so many of the cards that need either light or dark, and you can usually set them up through playing Tide cards. But if they're just permanently up, like
Mm,
you're just munching all the time. So like, yeah, there was a fair bit. It was been interesting to see how other characters kind of benefited it, but I reckon we had a pretty good spread.
yeah,
Because you use elements all the time. Mark uses elements all the time. I think Phil uses elements a bit, not heaps, but he uses them a medium amount.
yeah,
And so having unlimited fire, ice, and grass was like just bonkers crazy.
yeah. And the worst things that he's gonna do is summon more things for us, I guess,
And
and
that's why I
then
think by the
jump and
time,
hit one person.
yeah, we needed to kind of snowball from that point, right? Like once there were about 4 or so elements out, we were like, okay, we need to close this because it's going to get out of control.
Yeah.
Um,
And Mark had, I think, 3 shards on him. I think you had 1. I think Phil had 2. We started to consolidate them all onto Mark. So Mark
yep.
had the 6. We got to read the next section, which made the boss no longer invulnerable so that we could kill him. And then basically it was Operation Get Mark over to the boss, or he can get himself over to the boss and just lay into boss.
Yep. Yep.
Whilst everyone else is just farming for XP
Farming
is
XP.
pretty much. And you know what I remember? I got photos of this, of the actual board state. I think we looted like 3 tokens altogether, and it was just covered in loot that we just couldn't get,
Yep.
which was really unfortunate. So yeah, Mark basically beat the crab into a pulp. It was unfortunate none of us could actually damage it at that stage, but obviously that's intentional. And we, gave let Mark go down as the hero, although he went as the hero last week, so
Uh,
he's getting it
I
all
know
out.
he is. Those shoulders must be getting sore. I mean, he's gonna keep doing it for a while because he hasn't caught many Pokemon.
While he was punching the crab in the face over and over again, I said to him, "Can you just stop 1 second? Because on my battle goal, I just need just one more round." And he looked at me mid punch and was like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah." You know what? No, don't worry about it. It's fine. And he went, "Okay." And then he just closed it into the crab's face. He was contemplating it, but no, it was over and we won. And we round out scenario 60. We round out the lurker quest chain and we get our rewards, which, mind you, was a nice big fat list. We had 2 morale, 1 prosperity.
Yep, that's fine.
We gained 30 XP each. I don't
Great.
remember if the others did that, did they? I'd have to
At
double check.
the end of
Yeah.
the, I don't think so.
Yeah, okay.
Like
I
it
can't
seemed
remember.
more than we normally get. Like,
You,
yeah.
you would hate to be on a level 9 character after completing this, right? And I think that may happen to Phil on previous ones with the Blink Blade, maybe
Yeah, possibly. Well, he was definitely on the Blink Blade when we
with Unfettered.
edited, yeah. So
We unlocked the Kelp, so we finally get another unlock, which is super exciting. Although we've had a few with Prism and the other one. We gain the Crown Reunited sticker and remove all lurker events from the outpost decks, which is really cool. So now we'll never get attacked again, right?
apparently we won't get attacked by robots, Algox, or crabs. Like, what else could it be?
Yeah, exactly. We add an outpost event and a boat event, and we get a guard deck lurker card, which is pretty cool. I finished that scenario after all of that included 1 XP off level 7, which is also really cool. So, as I think Stu or Ricewood, I can't remember who, someone in that Discord said, "Oh, the Gaz curse has been passed on to me. It's all the shit I've been giving you. Karma's a bitch."
It is. Karma is a bitch. And I can't remember if I leveled up. I don't think I did because I must have just leveled up to 5. So
Well, at least we're not doing a force link, so I can go back. Oh wait,
that's it.
I don't want a force link.
What? No. Oh, yeah. Well,
I want one.
yeah, you want. You want to just, yeah, keep going. So,
Damn it.
yeah, now we've got to work out what we are doing because we can do anything because
We
we
can
have
do
very
anything. What were
I
your
think my
thoughts on scenario 60, Gaz?
um I thought it was great. Like we've talked a lot about boss scenarios. And I think this was a really well designed boss scenario. It did what we wanted a boss scenario to do. It didn't just there was no way of cheesing it in a sense. Well, I mean, I'm sure there are, but from what it presented, it's like you have to kill these 6 mobs before you can kill the boss, right?
Hmm.
Which is great. It's a great way of making the boss stick around and do some stuff because that's what you want. You want it to be there and be involved and feel like a threat, and it
Oh
really is
yeah.
when you can't attack it, right? And I think there was one time where, yeah, I think fire wasn't up, so it only hit for 6, but we were like, oh, it hits you for 10. And we're like, whoa, whoa. And they're like, oh, no, fire's not up, it's only 6. Like, it's still 6, but 10 was really bad,
Hmm.
right? So, yeah, it was always a threat. It was a small map, essentially, especially with it starting in the middle. So, yeah, design wise, I thought it was great. And I had a lot of fun with it. I
Yeah.
think it was, yeah, a cool way of giving people power with the shards, giving people power with the elements. So yeah, I think overall it was pretty cool.
Yeah. I really liked it. I think this is a really cool scenario. It felt a bit like a playground, which takes me back to scenario 67, which is the one with the chaos demons, and we're protecting the pillars
Yep.
from them. In that, really, you can approach it from so many different angles in how you're going to play it. And I like when the scenario gives you that. Here's a group. Here's what everything that's happening. Um, no surprises. Work out how you want to deal with it. So you really need to coordinate with this one. Mind snippers have a reputation, but their mind control doesn't really do anything anymore. And I think they need to drop down the list when we do a final one because
Yeah, in the bin. Yeah.
oh, I think they're going in the. Oh, they're getting close. They're on the rim. They're on the bin rim.
If
They
we if
have to
they
be.
if we weren't being constantly told they were really hard, okay, and we would purely went off our experiences, there's no way they would be anything higher than on the rim of the bin, right? Like
That's
But yeah,
fair.
I think again, if we go back to what makes a good boss scenario and how to end a quest line, it had the arena, it had some cool boss mechanics, it had some scary moments, it had a good it was obviously themed because there was just crabs everywhere. Uh, and they are a kind of cool monster. They're a pretty threatening monster. As much as we talk shit about claw crushers just being like the brute, they are probably one of the strongest of the brutes. We also talk shit about the mind snippers and not doing anything, which they didn't do much. But wave throwers we were terrified of.
Mm,
And yeah, I think overall, even though we kind of, I guess maybe we finished it pretty easily in the end. There definitely were some moments where we needed to figure out what we needed to do. So
yeah, yeah. I don't think it's a full walk in the park or anything. I actually think it's probably really challenging. I just think we coordinate. I think we're just good.
oh no,
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 I
he's
actually think we coordinate
yeah,
really well.
yeah,
And we had the hazardous terrain maze was really, really handy, really useful for preventing a lot of things even reaching us, which was really, really cool. Um, yeah, I think everyone just did really, really well, and I'm extra pleased with how you played your prism.
which
Because
apparently didn't do anything.
no, at the start, I don't remember. That's all.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, again, and I think that the important thing is that the boss scenario doesn't have to be really hard to be good.
No,
You almost don't want it to be super duper hard because I mean, the scale that could get wacky.
yeah,
So yeah, we didn't need it to be down to the last card flip to be a fun one. I think it did what it needed to do. So
mm,
yeah, it's kind of cool to wrap up the lurker quest and chain, and a little bit weird to not have any more quest chains, right? Like we were looking at the kind of all the calendar, or not the calendar, the yeah, like the advent calendar of scenarios, going like, what do we do? And I'm like, pick your poison, right? Like, we've got about 20 different options.
yeah. Which is something we should probably I don't know, get some guidance with, right? Where to go
Well, I
next?
think, yeah, that's it. I think we were talking about throwing up a bit of a poll of like, hey, here are some options. What should we do? Rather than just like, here's everything. What should we do?
Mm,
Or we'll pick one and go with that, and maybe we'll do a poll later. I don't know.
yeah, okay, sounds good. How did Omi go in here?
I think Omi's dead.
Yeah, he's pretty
Omi's super
dead.
dead. It was
Like
hard for me to keep my summons alive, and I can teleport them around and into them.
yeah,
Right, and control them. I think he's just insta dead.
I think he just gets stuck on the boss.
That's also a good point. Yeah, yeah, and then the boss gets stuck into him. As
Yeah,
soon as it draws, it's like attack 6 to
it's
10
just
damage
attack,
once.
attack, attack. Except one's immune
Yeah,
until
you're
one of them
dead.
dies.
Yeah.
Community wise, this is seen as an incredibly challenging scenario, especially for two players, because you
Oh,
still
oh,
have
six.
eight standees are still on the board, so you still have the three lieutenants on each side, but they're all normal.
Yeah, but so you still have to kill a 6.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that would be gross.
yeah. Like, and wave throwers are still summoning like normal eels. Like,
Mm.
I can't even fathom. Yeah,
I
just
feel
how
like I feel
tricky that
like
would
if
be.
you're at that point with 2 players, I reckon that you're probably okay with it though. Not that you'd be like, "Oh, this is easy," but you'd have an idea about how you have to play it. Like, we're thinking about it as a 4-player team, how you would do it with 2 people, but to get to this point, you probably jumped as harder hurdles to get to here. So, you're probably pretty good at coordinating your 2 people.
Yeah,
But yeah, it sounds rough.
super rough. Battle goals. Pedestrian, never enter a hex occupied by an ally, enemy, objective, or obstacle. Who had
That was
that?
Phil.
Oh, did he get it?
Yeah, no, I didn't. Have to jump through people.
Oh, gotcha. Struggler, never short rest. Must be
That
mine.
was you, wasn't it?
No, was it? No, I had to become exhausted first, so I
Ah,
failed.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. You was trying to hit
So,
me.
yeah, right at the end, I was just like, I need to die. I need to die. And I needed to go one more round. I even perfectly jumped right in between all the crabs, but I went on a 29 and they went at like a 26 or something and all had their turns and I couldn't get there in time. I was so sad. Just needed something with. I needed them to pull their retaliate bull crap card. And then Zealot, have 3 or fewer total cards in your hand and discard pile while also not exhausted at the end of the scenario. That sounds very you.
Yep.
Um, Quickly, DPS. Phil on 30 on his drill. Gaz on 38 on his prism, Mark on 67 on his fist, and me with 71 on a
Oi,
meteor.
look out.
Yeah, it
Oh.
was nice. I had no shards as well. All right, everyone, no shards. Damage taken, I took 10. Phil took 32. Mark took 37, and a lot of Mark's is self-inflicted. And Gaz took 54. What? Did you?
Yeah, I got hit a lot.
Right.
Yep.
And healing, I healed for 1. Gaz healed for 18. Phil for 20, and Mark for 30. So we had our outpost phase. We had summer outpost 37. And this was actually the our last outpost phase in summer for year 3,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
which is weird to say, year 3. Been
Mm.
playing a while. This one here was ages ago. Actually, we had a dude that I think a venturing party or something that were gonna go out, and a dude in
Yeah.
the crowd said, "Don't do it. You're all gonna die. Don't do it." And we had to decide whether or not we were like, "Yeah, don't do it because this guy's right," or "Nah, the guy's crazy. Go out and do it. Here, we'll even fund some of
Get
your
some
adventuring."
mushrooms. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Well, one of them came back, and he was not feeling all the best, and he shared some dodgy tales of what actually happened. So we could either vow to avenge his fallen party, or we can try and recover whatever we can from the pack that he dropped, which feels a bit dickish.
Loot the guy who's just come back and all of his friends have been slaughtered.
What did you bring us?
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably just the mushrooms we gave him.
Yeah. So no, it was cool. What's happened with this kind of event is it's also pulled out the other one. So the event put two into this with 2 different outcomes, and then it just comes down to RNG of which one we draw.
Mm.
So in another world, the adventuring party did really well, I assume.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. I love that design. Like, there is a chance that the story becomes different. So,
Yeah, but to us, no.
yeah.
To us, it's bad. All right.
Well, then we unlocked a scenario from it, didn't we?
Oh, side scenario. Yes.
Oh, but we've
But we already
got 'em
done it.
all.
I think
Yeah.
we've got them all now.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, we're like, we'll avenge you. He's like, okay, thank you. We're like, we're probably not going to because we've done all the quests.
Well, maybe the scenario that he was telling us to go to, because we've already done it, we are the ones that messed up his adventuring party. And then we've come back, and he's just like, oh, there were these horrible people that did this to me. And we're like, doing the side eye thing.
Awkward.
Yeah. So we're gonna have a chat about the 3 main quest lines now that we've finished. This isn't a major super test for your memory at all. There's right and wrong answers.
Okay.
So, no, not really. But the 3 main quest lines, remembering certain parts. Our experience will be different to what other people's would have had. So if we say that something was really bad, it could be because we chose really like dodgy scenarios when there was a better way ultimately.
Yeah.
So which quest line had the best final scenario? Guess.
Ooh, final scenario. I'm gonna say the lurker one.
I'm also gonna say the lurker one. Yeah. Why was it the best one?
I think it was everyone got to do a bunch of stuff. We got to see all like all the crabs involved, or a bunch of the crabs involved, and it had again like the boss stuck around and did some stuff. I think the unfettered one was also cool, but for different reasons. That one felt a little bit more like slow burn, slow burn, slow burn, and then it was just like pump it, right?
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
was cool. I really loved that element. I think we talked about it after we did it. And then the Elgox one was just in the bin. That was terrible. Like,
No, I'm with you on those two. At first, I actually was, when I was writing my own answers for these, I put the unfettered first, and then I thought about it, and I was like, there was something about it that was just, they're very different scenarios, and it was a bit more, one felt more linear, and then the local one felt more free flowing, and I think I appreciated the free flowing design of the local one. So yeah, I went with the local one for that exact reason, and agree with you. Well, we'll just jump to the next one. Which one had the worst quest line final scenario?
Yeah, it's just the Algox one. It just didn't feel fun. We played it in a weird way where we read too much into the fluff and we zipped through past all the monsters rather than killing them because we thought that's what it wanted us to do. But that's not what made it unfun. It was just once you open that door, it's like, okay, cool. Now kill this inanimate object while this unstoppable killing machine is going to go around cleaving you, which I know sounds very similar to what I was saying. It's like, oh, the boss was there the whole time and it was cool, but you didn't need to kill him. So
Mm.
it's not the boss. It's just like, I don't know. Yeah, it just felt lackluster.
There is going thinking back to that scenario. Is there any way we could have played it differently that made it more fun, other than
Like,
clearing the first room?
no. Like, well, I mean, clearing the first room probably would have made it feel better because we
Mm.
would have got to do more stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, remembering back, we opened the door on turn one. Like Phil did it first action on his blink blade. He just ran over there and opened the door. So we had the whole scenario open from literally our first turn.
Mm.
And then we just went like, okay, let's move over, let's kill some archers and let's go in. So uh I just feel like, yeah, it wasn't that exciting.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess the caveat is our final Algox one was scenario 55, change your heart, I think, and the other one for the unfettered was the destroy the orphan. Just for anyone who did something
They're different,
different.
aren't they?
Yeah.
So is
Yeah.
there a different end Algox one?
Yeah. There's heaps.
I know there's a different paths, but I just assume they all came to the same place.
No, that's a good point. I should probably check the flowchart. I think there's several endings for Algox, maybe
Okay.
3 types.
Oh, then it's our fault, 100%. We just chose a shit one. Okay.
Yeah.
Apologies, game designers. No, you did a good job, and you probably told us to go the other way, but we didn't listen. So,
Well, hang
um,
on. They can't. There's still the scenario is still like quite bad, right? So, like, you can't
um,
let them off the hook that easily.
nah, I'm really curious what the Save the Robots one is.
Yeah, a lot of people said that they liked it. Well, they said they liked it better, but then you're only playing one, right? Unless you've gone back and set up the second one just to try the other side.
Yeah, how do you know you
Um,
like it better?
I don't know. On paper, they loved it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we picked that one wrong as well, apparently.
Okay. All right. Hey, we can't pick Lurker wrong. There's only one.
That's true. So, what was your favorite quest line? In other words, if you had to do it all over again as it was, same decisions.
Probably the unfettered one.
Same.
I because I when you went through the previously on the Lurker quest chain like kind of scenarios, I remembered how like garbage some of those scenarios were, and not bad. Like they weren't badly designed; they just were a shit experience. And I mostly point at 14, 22. That's on a boat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The
42.
Sunless Trench.
Yeah.
Yeah, like those three for very different reasons. And I know a lot of people have had a good time with 22, but we just had a shit time because of the wave throwers. Three out of the 10 scenarios in there, just or if there's even that many, um, just didn't feel great. The only thing to consider is that we do have to put the extra quests that aren't in that line into that because you need to do it to get the shards, right? And some of those were cool,
It's a good
right?
point.
So going that way, it kind of changes a bit because I did quite like those two that we did recently together. I
Yeah.
won't go into that for spoiler reasons, but yeah, they were cool. So it's kind of a bit tricky, but I think overall, almost all the unfettered ones were fun to a
Yeah.
degree. Some of them were easy and not fun. Some of them were like the robots go boom and not fun. But again, that's fine.
Well, the Unfettered had the Spire as well, which was really cool. Going up there. Spire
Yeah.
Basement was a bit meh, but we caught that late game.
Mm.
But the actual Spire had several bosses, which is nice. And yeah, no, I agree with you. I actually would probably say the Unfettered questline is probably my favorite if we had to do it all over again.
Yeah.
Which questline would you do first to try the paths like we didn't take?
Excuse me.
So, in other words, the same question as last time, right? Which one would you be most keen to do it to try the different paths?
Oh, Alex, 100%.
Yeah, same.
There's like an entire completely different way of playing it. And I mean, from what I can only assume, the ending is way better.
Yeah, it's interesting that I was talking to Iron and Wine about because they went his group went a different way to us.
Oh, in Algox.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
I haven't gone into details how different and which scenarios, but all I know is when it came to getting because we got our last shard piece from number 9 and going into the puzzle book that way, you know,
Yeah.
to do 17 and 27. He there because they went a different path. Their shard is not in those scenarios. It's a different ones
Oh,
or
okay.
something along those lines. Or no, it may be something. It may be a different Algox questline shard that we picked up along the way. I can't remember.
Yeah, okay.
I can't actually remember. But yes, I think there's a lot in the Algox line that it just feels very untapped, including, we chose to go to a meeting. What happens if we didn't go to the meeting? We ran off with the other
Yeah.
chick, and did the other things. And what if we just sided with the ice speakers at the beginning? There's a whole flowchart on the other board for all of those scenarios.
That's what I'm thinking about when I think about the different options. Is I've looked at that board when we're looking at quests and going like, oh yeah, there's all these ones that we will never touch.
Yeah.
Like a whole series of them, which would be the way to go because we'd have the most difference, and I can't be worse, right?
No. Yeah. Well, we had a couple in Lurker and Unfettered, but not enough. Not compared to Algox from a pure number point of view.
I don't even think did we. Are there any other options in Lurker?
Yeah, we could nuke them,
That's right.
and I think it
Oh,
branched off into
okay.
2 separate scenarios.
Yeah. So Newcomb was the not doing the Sunless Trench, right?
I think this was
Just,
after Sunless Trench. I think it was not Do the Couch.
oh, okay. Oh, the couch was great.
I think.
Yeah, okay. I think you're
Um.
right because that's the first one that you go down the submarine.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Yeah. Now,
No, no, it's
collectively.
the other way around because my crab went on Sunless Trench, but not in the couch one. That was Bannerspear.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, so maybe Sunless Trench. Maybe so. This whole time we've been complaining about Sunless Trench. That's our fault again.
Maybe.
Like maybe we again. They gave us the
How?
nuclear option, and we always take the nuclear option, right? We
So,
chose not to.
is there a world where we, in a multi-universe, where we've done the complete opposite of everything we've done in this, and we're just raving on about how phenomenal everything is? I mean, we still
Yeah.
kind of are, but
Other than scenario
we
14,
probably
we would have
bitch
said
more
everything's
than
great.
yeah.
Like
Okay.
we would have said, oh, everything was amazing except 14, but everything else was amazing. Like,
The last thing I'm going to ask you is only purely because you would know because you played it more recently. Were these quest lines, right, and quest chains, were they more memorable to you than the main story from Gloomhaven?
oh,
Because I don't
yeah.
remember them. I don't remember the main story from Gloomhaven, and I'm
Uh,
saying, is there a good comparison? Have they done better, etc.?
I don't, I don't know. I think I'm gonna give a shit answer on this one. I feel like with Gloomhaven, it was, I don't want to say more random, but it was hard to know what chained in a way. And maybe this is just how we were playing it because we were playing. I mean, I recently played digital, played Gloomhaven 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So there's all the quests on the side, and you can kind of tell what they are for. But we just jumped around to what we needed to do based on retirements or rewards or stuff like that. So I don't really remember the kind of core quest lines.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't know if there's I don't know. I don't know if there's that if there are multiple like, 3 different key paths or if it's just one that you go through enough of and then it's like, oh, you got to do these 5 quests to unlock the next one, et cetera, et cetera.
I know
Um,
that it was harder to flesh out the story in general from scenario to scenario because the whole scenario details were kind of contained to one page, and that makes it really hard. Whereas in
mm,
Frosthaven, you've got the whole section book, so it can keep the story going even in the scenarios as you're unlocking a room, and then you see more of this crap, etc. So they can spend a lot more time on some of that narrative.
mm.
Whereas,
I
yeah,
mean, I don't ever remember in Gloomhaven saying, "Let's go do the such and such quest chain," but we are talking about that in Unfettered, like, well, Algox, Unfettered, and Lurker. So I think I don't know, more memorable is the right word, but they're definitely I think they're more distinct from my memory of it.
right.
Um,
So is
yeah.
it safe to
So
say, and this is I'm sounding like a Gloomhaven noob at the moment, that there's one main story line, and then a whole bunch of random side ones that are added from events and stuff like that.
I think so. I don't know. I'll wait for people to
That's my
correct me.
memory. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I like that's it. I remember there being a couple of key points, but I don't know how much was main story and how much isn't. Because
Yeah.
there's like parts where you do branch off and you can go kill the dragon or not go kill the dragon and do shit like that, or there are a couple that get locked off, but I don't think there was a lot of if you choose this, you can't do this. I know there were some, but it definitely feels like we were choosing a lot more in Frosthaven.
Mm.
But then again, yeah, like I probably didn't know the ones that I didn't know we didn't do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay. No, that's fair. Finally, we have a topic that was given to us from Ricewind in our Discord. And they asked, if you were to turn an enemy into a playable class, which enemy would it be? And what would the class do? Think of it like how the Fist is kind of an Algox Ice Speaker, or the Pyroclast is a Savas Lava Flow. And I think that's a really cool question because, like, the Abalia obviously are a good example. They're probably the most obvious example because they're a race or a faction or whatever that have their piranha pigs and all that kind of stuff. It makes the most sense to pull, like, the next playable race makes sense to be the Abalia. They've been introduced to us in this, but there's no representation, right? But I mean, yeah, and you could have some really fun stuff with the ranged abilities, and obviously they're a pet class because of the piranha pigs. What have you thought of?
I'm pretty sure I answered this in the Discord, so I'm going to give a completely different answer now because that feels like a month ago that I answered it. I mean, there's a few that come to mind. The what's the one that was in the mirror scenario, the boss one that we've only seen
It was
twice?
a Savas Ice Storm or something like that.
Yeah, I mean that feels like a character,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
Like all their ability cards already have like 8 layers of text on them. So that feels like you could do something with that.
Yeah.
But then that also just sounds like the like spell weaver or the elementalist or something like that, right?
Then it'd be more left field, like an ooze. Like a walking like an ooze man. Like, who just hurts himself and multiplies.
Yeah. So I mean, I like I'm going with the basic ones. If you wanted to pick one that makes the most sense, you go across that way, right? Like I think that's yeah. But ooze man, I mean, yeah, that's totally it.
I
Yeah.
I was gonna say I did think of one when that question popped up and I was gonna type it in Discord and I was like, no, I'm gonna hold off. All right, I'm gonna hold off. And I've been stewing on this just during the week whenever I have a moment to think about it. But I thought of the Deep Terror. I'd love if the Deep Terror was a playable character. Call it like I'm picturing. Do you remember the old Sierra games or whatever, Day of the Tentacle
Mm.
with the point and click? So one of those like big tentacle things that are moving around, except it's completely immobile because they
Okay.
are immobile. They don't move, and it has a mechanic in it that can be picked up, so a teammate can actually pick it up, and actually while it's being carried, right? The person who's carrying it has -1 to their move because this thing's all wobbly and in their arms. But then the tentacle guy can actually attack while he's being carried,
Oh,
but he
yeah,
has
that's cool.
disadvantage on his attacks
Okay.
because he's
I like
being
it.
moved. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're being
that
carried. It's
sounds
really
great.
hard to aim. But
That sounds
when you
awesome.
yeah, but when you do aim, obviously, you're only attacking beams, right? Like echelon. So it's kind of
Yeah.
I can see that. I can see. I'd love to play that. That sounds
That
super
that
annoying.
sounds like next level of coordination required on top of the current banner spear. Like imagine that. What you'd see, you can just picture the Reddit thread now. I'm playing with a group and they refuse to pick me up. Right?
I'm stuck in the
Like
first room.
yeah. Yeah, I'm stuck in the first room because nobody wants to move pick up. I think that we should redesign it so that I can teleport anywhere I want. Um it's funny to say about like a turret that can't move because that's kind of like Angry Face from Gloomhaven, like that class.
Oh, is it?
Which yeah, it's an archer class, and I found this when I played it. It's not immobile because you take your 1 or 2 jump 4 cards, but you basically jump into a room and then just sit there with range 4 and 5 attacks or whatever and just shoot everything. Like that's what that sounds like, but
Oh,
without the
right.
being picked up piece. You added layers of complexity to make it sound more fun.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Well,
enjoy
I had
that.
one extra little bit. It's got another cool little mechanic because you can't just be carried around and that's boring, right? After
Yeah.
a while, you're like, oh, I need to do something on my own. So what you can actually do during one of your teammate pick me up and move me mechanics is that they can actually place it onto a adjacent monster's face, like a face hugger. So the tentacles now like flailing on the face, and it does dot damage. So to whatever it's face hugging. And it also provides like the enemy that it's now sitting on their face with a minus move penalty, and I don't know, any damage it receives, the guy that's attached to it also takes half. There you go, done. So it's a face hugger from Alien, but in the tentacle form that needs to be carried by its team.
Yeah, sounds great.
So you can make anything a playable character.
You can. I think the other one, and I don't know if this came up. I'm pretty sure this came up in the Discord. I don't know if it was me or if someone else suggested it, but the ice wraiths, I think, would be
Oh
a lot
yeah,
of fun to play around with. And the have the shifting more
like a
less
Geminate.
like less like the Geminate and more like shifting stances in a sense. So it's not a puzzle, but it's more of a uh, benefit rather than a hoop, right? Like if you think about the ice rates, that they do change between melee and range, but without all the restrictions of like if you don't play the right card, you die, right? Like just have the ability to be like at the start, at the end of your action, you can just shift, right?
Yeah, okay. I
Or
can see that with
or forgo a bottom action to shift into, your melee form and forgo a top action to shift into range. Or I don't know, you work it out with the cards. But something like that where it's not I don't want to say negative, but it's not a puzzle aspect to it, but it's more kind of more like the prism where it's like optional.
yeah,
Like,
okay.
it raises the ceiling on it. I mean that kind of would be fun.
I like that. I'm picturing almost like the tide mechanic from the Coral with the persistent cards that are out there, but they have the fast and slow mechanic of the Blink Blade, and that represents the two forms. So when you change form, the different passives on the cards that you've already put out will then become active.
Yeah.
So the shield
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
retaliate kind of idea. It's like shield if you're normal and retaliate if you're elite.
Yeah, yeah, maybe that's it. And you could yeah, again, maybe you play around with a resource type system to do your shifting rather than cards. So
Mm.
again, like your Blink Blade or some other characters where you have tokens on there, or the drill's a really good one where it depends on where it is. Maybe it's a swinging, like it's a pendulum. So
Yeah.
instead of
Okay.
it being a resource you spend, you go from like ranged for 2 turns and then you go into melee. But you can maybe have things that swing it back the other way if you need to. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's some cool things you could do based on the fact that it completely shifts from one to the other that aren't the Geminate,
Mm.
right?
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I 100% agree. I think it's a cool concept that's not so tightly bound as the Gemini was.
Yeah. Make it fun, right? And I'm a big fan of the Gemini. I'm just throwing it out. I'm just saying what people were saying, repeating what people were saying. So
Yeah. I thought of Flaming Blade Spinner. Its whole thing is friendly fire.
yeah.
So,
Is this
um,
also where you need one of your friends to throw you into the
no,
arena so you can Beyblade around?
no, but you do get a lot of Beyblade movements. But I think that if you go adjacent to a teammate whilst Beyblading, you actually hit your teammate on the way. So you need to really plan around your positioning.
Mm.
Um, with how you're gonna Beyblade around. Oh, that'd be cool actually. If you worked it into a mechanic where they have a bounce off a wall mechanic, so they can actually
Oh yeah.
bounce off the corners into different areas, and it just keeps them moving.
Well, the fist has that if they move onto icy terrain, they gain +1 movement, right? So that kind of doesn't count. So maybe it's with the Beyblade, anytime you move next to a wall, you get a free movement as long as it's away from the wall.
Mm.
But you can't just like run up the side of a wall. But if you move into a wall, you can get one free movement to kind of bounce the hex that way. So you could, shoot yourself off and get some momentum. That'd be
Mm.
cool.
No, I like that.
Yeah.
There was some great ideas. We need to design some characters and a scenario. What about a polar bear? But
Sounds great.
he summons a human. It's like a reverse druid.
Yeah, like the reverse too many. Yeah, that's it. So,
Oh,
that's kind of
it's been
the
done.
okay. No, no, it hasn't been done. You're saying the
Oh,
opposite, right? You play as the bear. Yeah.
yeah. I've
Yeah,
got
I
six
want
element. Oh yeah, go.
No. I was gonna say I once had a D&D character. It was a necromancer with a raven familiar, but I talked through the raven and I just ran around saying I was a raven with a human familiar. So yeah, exactly that. It was a lot of fun, right?
Yeah. I got 6 elemental demons. They could actually be really interesting, minus the earth demon, who only has bin cards. So whatever he shouts rest, he goes in the bin. But yeah, no, I think that there is some, obviously some cool stuff. Maybe it's a little bit generic because they're all bound around a element.
An element, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you just take the chaos demon every day of the week, right?
No, you can't play Chaos Demon.
Why not?
No, it's OP. It's busted.
That's why it's the best one, right? I just go at one all the time.
Yeah, I have one other last one, Algox Archer, because I mean you can already pick Algox rounds, but every time you shoot something for lots of damage, you lose the scenario. So you have to strategically not do damage, which is really hard, right? It's really hard to not do damage as the
I,
Algox Archer
I feel
because they're
like
so busted.
if you're turning the Algox Archer into a character, it would just be like a ranged version of the Blink Blade that only ever was ranged and just did 1,000,000 damage to everything in the room.
Yeah,
I mean, again, it's probably just Angry Face from Gloomhaven, but
yeah.
like worse. Like not
Oh,
worse as in like not as good as in better because that's the Algox Archer.
yeah. But everyone will want to play it. 100%.
Yeah, true. Do 5 damage every turn, just all the time,
Why
regardless.
not?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will wrap it up there. Thank you very much for joining us for a Easter amDirt episode 61. Apologies for any brain fry that was happening. Earth demons suck. We will be back next week where we actually are going to be doing an amDirt chats with a member of the community. And then we'll get back to our regular schedule. In the meantime, I have been Teddy. I have been joined again by Gaz.
And remember, when it comes to rolling terribly, just listen to the intro.